Let's get hype, but as hype as some of the biggest draft prospects in Arizona sports history, it's another episode of Southwest Bias.
Get that stuff out of here. It's Southwest Bias.
We've got Espo, we've got Bo Brack, and myself, Erik Ruby. Guys, Cardinals number 4 overall pick, Marvin Harrison Jr. has completely ignited the valley. You guys held the line. Damon Dog was there, loud and proud, and it opened up the question of, is he one of, if not the most hyped prospect in Arizona sports history? So we're going to kind of open the table here, go back in time, and I'm going to start with football as well. Number 1 overall pick, Kyler Murray. Let's talk about the hype. Bo, fittingly, I will go to you, host of PHNX Cardinals, reporter there. Was the hype with Kyler more than with Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Ooh, that's a good question because the organization was in just a completely different place, in disarray, right? They had just drafted a quarterback the previous first round in Josh Rosen, the chosen Rosen. He was not.
No.
And
he was their guy.
Chosen.
Yeah, he was.
He just didn't work
Don't
out.
get it twisted. He's their guy.
He's their guy. He was their guy for like 10 minutes. And then Cliff Kingsbury, he kind of showed his hand, and he goes with Kyler Murray. And that was what made it so strange because we didn't know. Like, you had this failed college coach coming, and also you had Kyler Murray. Like, you didn't know what to expect. Undersized, 2-sports star, Heisman winner, but you didn't know if he was going to translate to the NFL. So I think everybody kind of took a pause on Kyler. Sure, there was a ton of excitement. You knew that he could be electric, but I think people were looking to see if it was going to translate, what this was going to look like. So I don't think people really hyped it up or gave it its flowers early on, Espo.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of consternation more than hype. I think people were like, he's too short. Who have we seen succeed other than Drew Brees that was this short?
Doug Flutie?
Yeah. I mean, that CFL and then his time with the Bills, and his one drop kick for 2 with the Patriots. You look at that, and I think that played a lot in it. People were like, I don't know about this guy. It wasn't surefire, right? It feels like people look at Marvin Harrison Jr. and think surefire, next Larry Fitzgerald. He's making one-handed catches in mini camps already. Get the Ring of Honor prepared for number 18 kind of thing. I don't think we quite felt that with Kyler. One guy we did, but it didn't live up to it. Bo Brack back in the radio days.
Oh yeah,
the hype was high, and now he sits here with us.
We were gonna save it for the end. We were talking about the most disappointing ones, know. But I guess we'll step on that while we can. I'm sorry, I didn't know he was going to do that.
It's all right. This is Southwest Bias. I knew he was going to drop the gloves.
Hey, I wasn't even on a prospect list. So.
Fair enough. Okay, so for me with Kyler, it's a little bit different because personally, I was extremely hyped, right? Because I watched Josh Rosen play football, and I said, I'm okay on that. Like, I'm good. And I always felt like, you have that pick, and obviously Bosa was there as well. And in hindsight, maybe you do take Bosa just because of how good he has been.
Nope.
But I
no, because you would have had Josh Rosen still as your quarterback.
But that's fair. And that is
say Burrow won the next season.
Well, that's the what if. Well, right, and I think that is a path that you can go down, right? But with Kyler, and you saw what he did, and I don't think there was any doubt that just like how spectacular he was physically, but of course everything else of how can he put it together and whatnot. But obviously good enough to warrant a number 1 overall pick. And I want to jump over to another sport, same time period, same draft position. Yeah. Let's talk about DeAndre Ayton. So, Espo, I'm going to throw it to you first. The hype around DeAndre Ayton more than or less than fellow number 1 overall pick Kyler Murray?
I think, again, there was division, right? Kind of like Kyler, it was, well, I don't know. There was a whole sect of people saying you should have taken Luka Doncic, right? And in retrospect, we know they should have taken Luka Doncic. Yes. I don't think the hype was quite Marvin Harrison Jr., but I think it was close because people thought they finally got the center that had eluded them for decades.
Shaq and Kobe 2.0.
Yeah, they thought it was the 0-2 Lakers all over again.
They're like, we finally got the number 1 pick for the first time ever. U of A, hometown kid. Like, I think a lot of people sold themselves on it. I don't think it was quite to the level of Marvin Harrison Jr. because I feel like everybody thinks Marvin Harrison Jr. is a surefire thing.
Do you think about with Kyler, though? Do you think that those kind of line up where there's definitely hype surrounding, but there's also those doubts, or does DA kind of take it a step forward?
I think they were probably at about the same level. And everybody knew that this was Devin Booker's team.
Right.
Like DA wasn't coming in to be
For
the star.
DA's team.
I feel like Kyler came in, and it was such a depleted roster in a lot of ways that people thought this kid's going to have to be the star because quarterback's the most important position.
Right. I mean, you would think 1-1 in their respective draft at the most important position in all of sports, but both of them, I think, were victims of their organization. I mean, Ayton was right there. I mean, people thought that, okay, that's the turning point for all these years of futility. Nope. I mean, I remember like they didn't hold the press conference in the normal press conference room. They had it out open to the public in the lobby of the Purple Palace down there. They had the entire draft class with Mikal Bridges and crew and like 3 other guys who didn't make the team. Yeah. But like there was a certain amount of hype, but then there was always like, okay, Sarver still owns the team. Like, is this truly going to be
You're still the team that got
and
the
it was
number one
also the height
pick.
of like what the Warriors were doing is like you just took it back to the basket center. Like this is going against the grain as far as where the league is going. So
and there was an excitement. Coach Wise, you just drafted Luka's coach, and now he's playing.
That was also an interesting
DA,
element to it
where
as well.
there was some intrigue with Cliff Kingsbury, whether it was super excited or not, but they knew that this was going to be offense focused around Kyler Murray's strengths. So I think DA would have been a step below where Kyler was.
Dark times. Remember Trevor Ariza? He was going to be that
$20 million man a year, Trevor Ariza? That's right.
I didn't visit Phoenix, and then I realized there was no chef, so fuck this place. Yeah.
All right, let's take a little bit more of a step backwards in time. I got a couple other modern names, but I want to stick to football now, and I want to stick to the receiver position and somebody drafted in the top 3 for the Cardinals, and that is Larry Fitzgerald. Now, the hype around Fitz and the hype around MHJ, comparable or no, Bo?
Not comparable. I mean, you liked what the organization was doing. It was tough not to, get excited about this, Heisman candidate coming out of Pitt, but who's going to get him football? And that was kind of his problem his entire career, even though he overcame that. And of course, he got spurts of Kurt Warner and Carson Palmer. But, this at that time, it was a son's town. Like, people were still lukewarm on football until Fitz, put the team on his back and took him to, this Super Bowl run a couple years down the road with the best playoff performance by a wide receiver. But I don't think he got the hype that he deserved.
And do you think that maybe now, because he laid that foundation of what you could see a stud number 1 wide receiver spend a whole career here,
because the floor is so high,
right?
The floor is so high. It's like, okay, this guy's pro ready. I think like Fitz, Marv is star ready.
Yeah,
and if he comes out of the gates and he doesn't like put up gaudy numbers like Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase early on, people still understand like he's going to be a part of the solution and this organization turning the corner on such thin years.
Yeah, let me take you back, since I'm the elder statesman here and have been around this place far too long. The last game before the draft order was set, that was the year that Fitz was taken. The Cardinals had the chance at number 1. Mm-hmm. All they had to do was lose to the Minnesota Vikings at home, who were trying to make a playoff spot, right? If they won, Green Bay got knocked out, Minnesota got in, Cardinals got the number 1 pick. So you think, well, why the hell wouldn't the Cardinals lose, right? Because you got Eli Manning, you got Phillip Rivers, there's all this talent that's sitting there, quarterback-wise, and you've got Josh McCown under center, right? So take that as it is. And instead, the Cardinals win on a last-second Hail Mary from Josh McCown to Nate Poole. I'm in the building. We're excited and then heartbroken all at the same time because you realize you just went from number 1 to number 3. So you're sitting there and thinking, oh, we're going to get a quarterback, right? And instead, no, you get Larry Fitzgerald. Mm-hmm. And well, people were like, okay, nice wide receiver. Again, who's throwing to him? Oh, great, Josh McCown, it ain't going to matter kind of mindset. So I don't think the hype was there because of what the people felt you lost in the process in getting Larry Fitzgerald. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely fair. And I feel like a lot of the times when you've seen success in a similar position before, it's a lot easier to get excited for that. And Fitz like laying that groundwork. And again, also having Kyler Murray right now for Marvin Harrison Jr. and plus like just following the Cardinals in general and how low things were a couple years ago and how quickly Gannon and Austin Ford, an entire new regime has kind of come in and set things straight. That also kind of amplifies it for a team that's picking really really high. Sometimes it's hard to get behind that team. But I'm going to shift gears completely, get out of basketball, get out of football, and go over to baseball, because that prospect system and everything like that is strange. And it's not often a number 1 overall pick can really live up to the hype of a number 1 overall pick. So I want to throw the name Justin Upton out there to you guys. And just the first thing that comes to mind.
The fact that they named an entire section of the ballpark and gave him a sign behind him out there.
Now that's hype.
In
That's
field.
hype. Yeah.
That's beyond hype. Everybody thought this is the superstar. This is
right.
Okay, we won the World Series in 2001. Now we're back, baby. And they weren't back, baby. It was he didn't live up to the hype. They had a whole system though back then. They had Connor Jackson, Sergio Santos, who was a top prospect.
It's a great name.
At catcher, at shortstop, and then Justin Upton. Sergio Santos wound up being a relief pitcher for the White Sox. Not a very
how that
good
goes,
one.
right? Yeah.
Connor Jackson never amounted to squat in the majors, had a cup of coffee, and Justin Upton fell short. So that's an entire era of hype that never lived up for the Diamondbacks.
No, it didn't, because they make the playoffs his first year he comes up, right? And then you're like, 08, they come out of the gates super hot, and then the wheels fall off. You got Manny Wood going on, and then it becomes like the Dodgers for the next decade and a half. And he's traded to Atlanta for a package of picks that really, you can kind of really waste your time in debating who won that trade. But what did he live up to hype? Certainly not. I'm trying to think of who definitively lived up to the hype in the Valley.
It's tough. I mean, listen, if you look at somebody super young in their career right now, when Corbin Carroll got called up and the hype surrounding him and his rookie season, I mean, I had friends texting me, this is our LeBron James. And obviously right now it's hard to mention because A, he just got injured, but also B, he's been having that sophomore slump. Yeah. But he came in and he was the Diamondbacks' best player, or at least an argument for it from day one. That's the hype.
For 1 year.
Exactly. Right. Like we're still in the middle of the story.
I still think Kyler can live up to his hype in the end. Like if you look at what he did, it's one of the best runs a Cardinals quarterback has had.
Yes.
It's a shallow pool that you're wading in, but but luckily Kyler's short, so the shallow pool helps. But he's got plenty of hype right now as well, coming back with MHJ. I think he could surpass the hype that he had, honestly, if he comes back from this injury and plays well. And you think MHJ could probably live up to hype, but it's a very short list.
Well, there's DT, right?
Yes,
absolutely.
Tarazi, definitely.
I think when CP3 joined the Suns and they make the run to the finals, and that might not have, people were still kind of on the fence, like, can they do what they did in the bubble? Will that translate to the next season?
And I think that's also kind of like you talk about hype. Like there's a difference between getting hyped from an already established player. Like you still get hype, right? Yeah. An already established player coming in, but then all of these young guys that you talk about, where you talk yourself into what could be. With Chris Paul, it's like, oh wow, like that's what's going on. Yeah. Like right now,
can we get to some of the bad? I got one
you're
burning a hole in my
Please go.
I know you're gonna love this one. Matt Leinart.
Yes.
All right. On draft day, Denny Green, who was running things, and the head coach called him up and said, when he welcomed the rookie, quote, "You're a gift from heaven." Gift from heaven. That went on to play 4 years, 29 games, was 7-10, only threw for 3,800 yards, 14 touchdowns, 20 INTs, threw for 134 yards per game. That's Clayton Tune kind of yards per game right there.
10th overall.
Yep.
I mean, one of the biggest stars that the college football world had ever seen. Heisman Trophy winner.
Hot tub aficionado.
Oh, yeah. Loves to spend some time with a beer. Was it a beer bong in a hot tub?
Yeah.
What is it with the Cardinals quarterbacks and bodies of water, like pools and stuff in college? Because wasn't it Rosen who in his
Red Flag
in his
City,
dorm had like a little inflatable pool?
That absolutely is one of the leading candidates for not living up to the hype in Valley sports history.
Do you have one that's burning a hole in your pocket? Is there somebody that I haven't?
I mean, I can think of a couple teams. Like I think this 2016 Arizona Cardinals, if even like getting a national pulse, like people are like, this is the team coming out of the NFC. I mean, if they had any questions, it was that pass rusher. They added Chandler Jones in the offseason, and they fell horrendously short that season. And then this year's Suns. I hate to say it, guys, but I mean, they went from are they going to win a title to one of the most kind of unlikable teams we've seen in the history of that franchise?
Bender.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I'm still on
that whole
I'm
era.
still on Bender Island. I'm underwater and I'm the only person left. But man,
is Bender Island close to Kaminsky Cove?
Oh, they were. I had a whole nautical theme of places that you could visit.
Where could they have pivoted to? Who should have they taken it?
Well,
He was 4th overall, right?
That was a rough draft. I mean,
was
there
a
were a
terrible
handful,
draft.
but like
It was an Alex Len draft, but
it wasn't that far off. There, look, you look at it and you just go, that kid had the potential, and I think again, their system, their whole environment screwed him up massively to the point where he lost all confidence and left the NBA. Just said, "I'm going back to Europe to play because I'm more comfortable there."
And I think that's also like a perfect illustration of like sometimes these guys who don't live up to the hype, it's not always all their fault.
No.
Right? Like you can get drafted really high to an organization, and it could either be an organization that had just suffered for a year, had a down year, ended up with a high pick, but they're well run and you move on with it, right? Like with that draft specifically, the 3 picks before Bender, Jaylen Brown going to the Celtics, Brandon Ingram to the Lakers, Ben Simmons to the Sixers. You look at Jaylen Brown right now, obviously the Celtics were in a downtime there, but you get drafted into a place that's competent and has known how to win. With Dragon Bender, it's different. And guys that maybe the Suns could have drafted instead, you've got Buddy Hield went 6, Jamal Murray went 7, obviously Marquise Chris went 8, Jakob Poeltl going 9, Domantas Sabonis 11.
Yeah,
there are good names, but then once you get past that, you're looking at Karis LeVert later in the first round.
Do they wind up in the same boat? Was their
were.
talent enough to overcome? Like, the reason Devin Booker succeeded was Devin Booker. Devin Booker's mindset, Devin Booker's work ethic, those things rose above what he was drafted into in a large way. So mindset, environment, all these things play a part in it. I'm not sure this show lived up to the hype.
Dang.
I'm still debating.
We're just throwing that out there?
I'm just debating.
Okay.
You tell us in the comments.
Yeah, you let us know.
Leadership, I think.
Yeah, he called you out. He said that you didn't live up to the hype.
Yeah,
then he
I called
all of
myself
us out
out, too.
Yeah, but when you're the one that brings it up, it's like you almost can like skirt the responsibility with it.
You
as
still
well.
have a chance to live up. You're young enough. Like,
I'm trying.
I'm in my 40s. Bo's in
Sometimes
his
you are
late
what you are.
30s. You know.
Yeah, but Bo's like, I got no faith. Bo's like, you might have the chance to do it, but
He's
there's
got
absolutely
tough
no chance.
infrastructure.
I mean, like I said, sometimes it's the organization that you're in, right?
I mean, Bo's got to carry Johnny's ass every day,
that's
so
fair.
that's difficult too.
That's fair.
So I should give you credit.
Well, there are some names we didn't get to. Maybe you're a big fan of what Josh Jackson could have been, or maybe there was a lot of hype surrounding Patrick Peterson. You can let us know down in the comments below. This was another great episode of Southwest Bias. I'll lift us up. I'll be the voice of positivity, okay? I'm not going to let you bring us down. If you disagree with Espo, hit that like button. If you agree with Espo, also hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to PHNX Sports. It's that little button right underneath this, and if you made it like 18 minutes into this video and you haven't clicked the subscribe button, I'm seriously questioning what's going on.
What are you doing?
Like,
Now
what's
leave
going
a
on?
comment of the most hyped Valley Sports app.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm sorry, Josh Jackson. You ain't for real. All right.
All right. Well, that almost
We've
made me
officially
cry.
jumped the shark.
All right, guys. It's been another episode of Southwest Bias. We'll be back later this week with a little bit more fun. Stay tuned.
Get that stuff out of here. It's Southwest Bias.